Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, all praises and the belong is due to Yahweh by Shema Mashak Malak Shai. Secondly, Brother Yardan, W. for Detroit, coming back at you with yet another cold cut. Today in this cold cut, the Most High put in my spirit to dive into this word that I'll be explaining. That word is zoochosis. All right. Now, I'm going to read this, but before I do, I want to pull out a precept first. It reads, "So they read in the book, in the law of God distinctively, and gave the sense, and caused them to understand the reading." And so, Lord willing, that'll be the main objective, is to help Israel understand the meaning behind the precepts and some knowledge as well through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. That said, diving into the word zoochosis is a term for abnormal, repetitive behaviors, stereotypies shown by captive animals like pacing, swaying, bar biting, or self-mutilation, indicating severe stress, boredom, and psychological distress from confinement. As these actions serve no purpose and aren't seen in the wild, it's a viable sign of poor welfare in zoos, aquariums, circuses, reflecting the animal's inability to express natural behaviors in an unnatural environment. Now, the reason why, you know, I dived into this is because I saw a lot of similarities between the behaviors of beast and man. Now, this isn't anything new under the sun. Like it reads in Ecclesiastes 1 and 7 on down, there's nothing new under the sun. So, one of the wisest men on earth, his name was Solomon, and he also noticed man and beast behavior. I'm going to grab that precept in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7, verse 20. It reads this: "The natures of living creatures and furies of wild beasts, the violence of winds and the reasoning of men, the diversities of plants and virtues of roots." So essentially, the majority of this chapter is diving into the knowledge that Solomon has throughout these different worlds. Now, when I say worlds, I'm not speaking of Neptune and Uranus. I'm speaking about the worlds within this world. For an example, he understood beast nature and their behavior in the sea world, in the savannah, in the desert. He observed and acknowledged these animals. Even the Lord said in Proverbs 6 and 6. Let's dive into it. It's Proverbs 6 and 6. The Lord said, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be what? Be wise." So, one of our duties is obviously the chief duty is to keep the commandments of the Lord. But while we're here on this carnal side of the earth, we are also to observe the Most High's creations as well. And we can learn from them, which is why it simply reads, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise." You can become 10 times much more productive by simply acknowledging the way that an ant moves constantly throughout the day. And so back to the term zoochosis, when you look at these animals and beasts in zoos and or circuses, they mentally break down. For what purpose? As we read, the inability to express natural behaviors in an unnatural environment. Now, I have another term as well. Hopefully I can bring it on the board, but zoochosis is a psychological condition that affects wild animals held in captivity, leading to repetitive and compulsive behavior. Not typically seen in the wild, these behaviors, often referred to as stereotypical behaviors, include actions such as pacing, swaying, head bobbing, and self-mutilation, which arise from stress and frustration due to unnatural living conditions. The term was coined to describe the detrimental effects of confinement on animal behavior. Now, it's also important to understand that man is likened unto beast. The scriptures tell us that as well. That's Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 18. I said in mine heart, and your heart is your mind. You don't really think with your heart, you think with your mind. I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. So when you compare, contrast, and show the similarities between the two, what they have in common, I mean, that's what we call them in a diagram today. And obviously, there's a great difference with man and beast. Beasts move predicated off of instinct. They don't really consider and weigh things in the balances for the most part. Yeah, average beasts, they just move. However, a man's job and duty is to adapt and to evolve during any type of condition. And we also have a spirit within us that is not similar to the spirit that is within beast. We have logic and reasoning. We can deduce. We have sharp, keen instincts as well through the spirit on the right hand side. And so what we also have in similarity is that at times where we move off instinct, you understand? And so that's why he said that they themselves are beasts. This is an oversimplification, but nevertheless, the point still stands that man's nature is very carnal at times, and it's easy to be seen as beast. I mean, think about it. When you're hungry, you want to eat until you're full, and you'll grab anything. When you're in an unpleasant situation, what do you do first? Typically, most men and women in this world, they react irrationally. Their behavior is just completely off and wicked. It's no different than that of a dog. A dog doesn't have reason within himself to consider what's right and what's wrong. It doesn't have the precepts, right? And a lot of times, man moves in that spirit of beast, which is why it reads, "A man that they might see that they themselves are beasts." And so, understanding that we also are seen as beasts, it's also important to note that, like beasts, if we're placed in a uncomfortable situation and or stressful environment, we're bound to have some type of behavior. What's the word? Some unnatural behaviors, if you will. So again, just to reemphasize, this verse is ultimately reflected upon Solomon. It's Solomon suggesting that we're no better than beasts, essentially, right? Hell, when you look at it on another level, we're also both limited when it comes to liberty. You understand? But without diving into a deep rabbit hole, I want to continue on with the lesson, because all of this ties back to zoochosis, which is the term for abnormal repetitive behaviors. And when you think about this world and Babylon the Great, every day is a repetitive type of system. You go to work, you wake up, you eat, you poop, you shower, you sleep, and you do it again. And now you may be thinking, well, it was like that in the ancient world. It's like that all the time. Well, not the way that it is, today. You see, you have a lot of stumbling blocks. You have a lot of you have a lot of madness and wickedness and sin you have to see on a day-to-day basis. That's not natural. For an example, you may see a dozen poor Jake driving to work. You may see somebody getting stabbed. You see all these unnatural things that causes so much psychological distress being in this society. It makes one go mad. And so what do you do to cope? A lot of men, what do? You drink. A lot of women, what do? You scroll, you gossip. You'll find anything similar to these beasts to have some type of mechanism to help you swallow the pill, right? to help you ease your mind, ease this affliction that you're in. And similar to beast, what do? They sway back and forth. They pace, they bite, they self-mutilate. I mean, that's what you do, man. Man does the same thing. Man may self-mutilate. It may not be on the same extent. You may not cut yourself. You may drink yourself. You may smoke weed. You may overindulge in eating, which is really a high common practice in hedonism. So that's why you're not much different or better than beasts. When you're placed in some type of confinement and a repetitive cycle, you're going to find anything or do anything to alleviate that pain. Check this out. I want to watch an actual video. Okay. See, look at that.
Really bad exhibits
Bugged
where
out.
the animal is suffering from stereotypic
These animals are bugged out. And a lot of the times we feel the same way. You just kind of you need to ease your mind. That's why so many men get drunk straight off from work. I was talking to this Edomite at my so-called job. He said every day after work they went to the bar. Why are you drinking every day? They could be working out. They could be helping out the environment, their community. They said every day faithfully, religiously, they drink like a fish. That's because even Esau, the lowest level of base man Edomites, understand that this place that we call America is completely defiled and wicked, to the point where you have to find something to alleviate your soul. Some people binge watch. Some people order DoorDash all day. Other people may do this and or that. So what do these animals do? What did this bear just do? Let's go back to it. What was that, a bear and a raccoon? What did this bear and coon do? That's that swaying back and forth. And even on another level, when people get stressed, they kind of tap their feet, kind of do this, can't stop moving. And that's how we feel spiritually too sometimes, being in this captivity, because this isn't your home, this isn't your rest, this isn't our place to be. But we find rest in the scriptures, right? And the time that we're here, still in Babylon the Great, we find rest in the scriptures. That's Psalms 23 and 1 on down.
Really bad exhibits where the animal is suffering from stereotypic behavior in some form or other.
Look at that. Artificial environment. America is an artificial environment with little stimulation or enrichment, man. You can't make this up. And no escape from the public gaze. That's social media. No escape from the public gaze. Why is so common in this? Why did they say that? Oh, they said this. Oh, that's another bugged out doctrine. Right? What else? Yeah, let me read that again. It is evident that animals still suffer as a result of being held in artificial environments. Even the food we eat is artificial. Now, if you're familiar with being in a so-called hood or in a place that's predominantly Israel, you'll see these same tendencies in Jake that's on the streets and the highways and byways. You might see Jake kind of walking like this, bugged out. You may see another Jake just walking back and forth in front of that liquor store, just back and forth, waiting for some new thing upon our earth to hear and to speak on, just walking back and forth. That's a lot of Israel's mind. You're just going back and forth. What is this doctrine? What is that doctrine? In the kingdom of heaven, you won't have to ask just, what's this doctrine? What's that doctrine? I mean, there's many layers to this term zoochosis and how it applies to man and Israel and the truth. sad, man. Look at that head bobbing. Bugged out. At a certain point, when you just been in captivities for so long, your mind just gets corrupted in a sense, right? Not all Israel, but I mean, it's bound to happen. It's a great possibility. I mean, think about it. Think about the times you went off in your life. It's because you've been here for too long. It's because you just been here for too long and now you're doing some new strange sin, some new strange thing. You've been here too long. So you're trying to find something to just put your mind at ease or alleviate any type of pain. I wanted to get a precept. Just slipped my mind. Jeez. See that? Maybe if I go back, I can kind of remember. I can capture that thought again. Damn. Actually, this is in the precepts too. Let me see if they know what I want. Acts 17 and 21. Let's get this chapter. For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else but either to tell or to hear some new thing. Just spending your time just to hear or to tell something new. Look at this. And hath made, this is one of the other precepts, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation. So, man, you have your habitation, you have your boundaries. I'm curious to look up something. Look at this. The behavior, I Google, why do people walk around liquor stores all day? The behavior can also be driven by addiction, high stress environments. See that? Environmental stress and poverty. High stress living environments and poverty can lead people to use alcohol to cope, often resulting in spending their time near these vendors. That they themselves might see that they are beasts. Or just bite it. And some Jake, you cut yourself. Some Jake, unfortunately, sadly, you destroy yourself. You take away your own soul, right? You get this other precept, and then I'll close out, Lord willing. It's Baruch 3 and 17. Let me start at verse 16, maybe. Yes, let's see. Where are the princes of the heathen become, and such as ruled the beast upon the earth? They that had their pastimes with the fowls of the air, and they that hoarded up silver and gold, were in men trust, made no end of their getting. Right? Who is the fowls of the air? Who's that speckled bird? Who's the other bird in Esdras? A man, man is likened to beast. We already went over that. So who's that they? They that had their pastime with the fowls of the air, and they that hoarded up silver and gold. I believe it's another precept that I want. Let's see. Essentially, what I'm trying to convey is that the spirit of Esau captures men like beasts and won't let them free. That's what verse 8 is going into as well. How happeneth it, Israel, that thou art in thy enemy's land, that thou art waxing old in a strange country, that thou art defiled with the dead? When you defile with the dead, I mean, that are counted with them that go down into the grave, you might as well be the dead. See that? Yeah, this is really what I want. 16. Where are the princes of the heathen become, and such as ruled the beast upon the earth? So that's on a physical level, as far as literal beast, as well as man, also likened unto beast. I mean, for crying out loud, when you read Daniel 4 and 20 on down, 20 to 22, 20, 20, 21, 22, 23 on down, Nebuchadnezzar turned into a beast. So look at that. Zoochosis. You may have to ask yourself, do I have zoochosis? Am I mutilating myself? Am I destroying my flesh? Am I bugged out like this? A subject you kind of just stare off into space. Some people, they come home and just they sit on their couch like this. Look at him running around this cage, just running. Yeah, he's running himself into a rut, literally. And now, your average man may say, "Well, I'm not doing that. I stay busy." Not all the time. Not all the time. You know, not when you go off. When you go off, this is the spirit of going off. You're just doing something to kind of, keep your mind going. Because what else is there to do? But even as Joshua said, we know what us and our forefathers are going to do, and that's to serve the Lord, right? And keep the commandments. Keeping the commandments is enough. Having that just balance. Remembering remembering the precepts. That's enough, right? And you can have your righteous, mechanisms, your righteous things to ease your mind, such as exercising. That's very healthy to exercise. The Lord tells us that, Sirach 30, and 30 on down. The Lord said, "Remove sorrow from thee." You may have to read. You got a lot of hobbies you can do, as long as they're not self-destructive, right? That's also one of the main points of me bringing out this term zoochosis, because a lot of men in this time, they get zoochosis. Now, remember my precept on praises. It's also in Wisdom of Solomon. Let's see if this is it. Let's see. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 10. He pleased God and was beloved of him, so that living among sinners he was translated. Yea, speedily he was taken away, lest that wickedness should alter his understanding, or deceit beguile his soul. For the bewitching of naughtiness doth obscure things that are honest, and wandering of concupiscence doth undermine the simple mind. So if you're simple minded, you're going to be overthrown by all the naughtiness and obscurities in this world. And your soul is going to be overtaken and overthrown so wickedness can establish itself. And so this is done, when as long as man is upon earth, the longer we're here, it's high risk of Jake just going off. That's why you may hear Jake's going off publicly, personally, in your circle, in your community, here or there. That's that zoochosis. And it can happen to anybody, any one of us. It can happen to me, it can happen to you. That's why we have to do our best to our ability to remain humble and diligent and keep that just balance. But with that, Abaratazar Israel has been edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemawashai. Shalom.